All right, welcome everybody to another great episode of the Struggles of Entrepreneurship. Today with our special guest, Mr. Zack Scheke. Hello, sir. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mr. Zack. Thank you for joining us. Father of Six was one of the things that really caught my attention on your title. Congratulations on that. I'm a father of one, and it's a handful. I could just imagine you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's my greatest accomplishment for sure.
Yes, yes, I bet. So, Mr. Zack, we use this platform to allow you to we use this to give you a space for you to share your information with an audience, and we also use this for you to share some great feedback with our listeners. So, with that being said, can you go ahead and introduce yourself to us? Let us know a little bit about your marketing agency. Let us know about your family a little bit more.
Sure. Yeah. So, I've only been in the entrepreneurship world for about 2 years. It hasn't been very long. But I started out into the marketing world. It seemed that was just a perfect fit for me. Um, just the way my mind works. I like the thing I like the most about marketing is just that it's almost like a puzzle. You kind of have to figure out like what works and what doesn't work, right? It's a lot of testing and there's a lot of I don't know. I don't like to shotgun, like shotgun testing or anything like that. It's more strategic than that, but I just really like marketing. But yeah, I have a family of six. Or six kids. Okay, so family of eight. The latest one was born this last December, so December of 2019. So that was exciting. It was actually pretty interesting because we actually did a natural birth with that, and it was my wife's idea. Don't blame me. and that was quite an experience, compared to like a hospital environment. We went to like a midwife birth center, and it was extraordinary. It's pretty amazing. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I before entrepreneurship, I was in engineering. I was an electrical engineer, and I had a pretty successful career. But that was kind of the problem, because with a successful career like that, I was working a lot. It was between, 50, 60, sometimes I think my record week was like 96 hours. Um, and what was crazy is the week before that was also my record week of 94. And then the following week I got 96. So I beat it. But all of that, it ended up playing a big part in actually my family kind of breaking up. Like we just felt, not very close. We didn't really know each other anymore. The wife, of course, it's not fair to her. And so I ended up kind of taking a drastic measure. I invested in a program to learn digital
Yeah, of
marketing,
course.
and eventually I quit the job. Now I actually quit too soon, to be honest, but I had to, because if I continued, I felt like I wouldn't have a family anymore. So I just decided to burn the boats and just leave it too soon.
Yeah,
So
we're in a very similar boat. I actually felt I burned my boat too soon as well. But I also feel like if I wouldn't have done that, Sack, I wouldn't have been here. Right.
exactly.
So I felt that lack of preparedness really got me to discipline myself faster. So I
Yeah,
feel you feel the same way.
I agree 100%. That's exactly what happened.
So tell me, who was Sack in high school before you became an engineer, before you did all this? I mean, engineering sounds very intensive. So tell me, were you very good student in school?
I actually was,
Like,
in that, like, I listen to a lot of podcasts, right? So if you listen to a lot of entrepreneur stories, most people say that they were not very good at school
yeah.
because, most entrepreneurs aren't, because the way our brains work is very different. And so for me though, it was actually, honestly, the good grades was a pretty big disadvantage for me in the real world. The reason is because it inflated my ego beyond what it should have been. So I did not experience a lot of failure. Like I played some sports and stuff, so yeah, I lost. It's not like I won all the time, but still, I did get extremely arrogant because school was so easy for me, and that arrogance carried over, and it ended up, that's part of what impacted a lot of my relationships, and my attitude. And there was, I tell you this, that kind of an attitude, there is no way you can be successful in business. So I kind of feel like entrepreneurs that are not good in school, they kind of have an advantage because they know that that they're not good at everything. Like that was kind of the way I thought.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly, subconsciously or whatever, I kind of thought like I can do anything. I'm smart, and it really impacted my life for years and years and years. It wasn't until like 2 years ago, I went to like a personal development event, which I didn't know what to think of that. Like I went there thinking like, this is going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is like woo woo crap, and, but I'll tell you what, I've never cried so much in my life. Like it was very transformational. It opened my eyes to my attitude, to, the way I was behaving, the way I was treating people. And that's, and 1 + 1 = 2. That's exactly when my business flipped on its head and became successful. Right there, just with that attitude change at that event. So that's a little bit about me. But I mean, I played some sports and I was in band. I liked music. That's about it.
So tell us a bit about what kind of high school, did you have any jobs when you were in school? What kind of jobs did you have prior to being an engineer?
Yeah. Okay. That's a really good question. So yeah, in high school, I worked at a Quiznos Subs for most of high school. And all my friends had the cool job. They all worked at like a movie theater. And I'm stuck at this Subway restaurant or sub sandwich restaurant. But out of high school, I actually joined the Navy, the United States Navy. And I joined as a reservist. I went into their military police program. It's called Master at Arms. I love that. I really did. I thought it was great. All the yelling and stuff, that was quite an experience, but I actually really enjoyed that. And then afterwards, when I was done with the training, I decided to actually go to Mexico. I went on a mission in Mexico, primarily in the Yucatan Peninsula. And so I was there for 2 years. I lived there. So I didn't have a job. My job was to, be a missionary. So now when I got back from that, that's, I guess, when things get a little interesting, because I still had this arrogance, so I started in this, like MLM company. I actually did pretty darn well. And then I met my wife, and that totally changed my perspective on having a business versus being an employee. And I thought employee was the route I wanted to go because it was a little more secure. And so I got all sorts of jobs, dude. Like it was like, shipping and receiving for Target, which they actually fired me. That's kind of a funny story, but I was so grateful because I hated that job. That is still my least favorite job of all time. I worked at like a video rental store. Eventually I got into sales, like a sales position, phone sales. I did really well there. But I did so well, they didn't need me anymore. So they laid me off. And then eventually I got into IT work. And then that company that hired me as their IT guy, I started to show them that I could do more than just IT, right? With engineering type stuff, even though I never went to school for it. And so they ended up putting me in their engineering department, first as like phone support, engineering support. And then I eventually got to travel to these different customers' sites to help them install software and get the wiring right and all that. So it was kind of a progression.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, all sorts of jobs. But that's kind of the point. Like I was never happy or satisfied. It was like one thing after another. Was it money? No, because like the sales job was paying me really well, but I didn't really like that job. And eventually the engineering job was paying me even better. That was a 6-figure income. But I still wasn't satisfied. It wasn't what it was. It wasn't the money, which is what I thought, right? It was more like my perspective on life, number one. And number two, was I really helping anybody? You know, like helping some company install software, that didn't really make me feel like I did something amazing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, compared to 2 years doing missionary work and doing somebody's wiring, you're like, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, you know, if somebody complained that like, oh, something's wrong with this wiring, I'd be like, cry me a river. You know, I know people that, you know, don't have furniture, you know? So anyway, but yeah, that was, it was just not fulfilling, you know,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
wasn't,
Go ahead.
go ahead.
I really wanted you to tell us a little bit more about your experience in living in Mexico. So, do you currently speak Spanish, fluent in Spanish now?
You know, I want to say yes, but what happens is, because I have had to speak Spanish since then a few times, and usually it takes me a couple minutes to like get back into it, and then I'm good, you know.
Yeah.
So if somebody just starts blabbing Spanish at me, at first I'm like, wait, say it again. Like I wasn't prepared, like hold out of it. But no, yeah, I lived there for 2 years, and I'm LDS, right? So those guys that walk around in white shirts and ties, that was me. And it was primarily in the city of Merida, but I also went to Cancun and a tiny little village. That was my favorite place to go. It's called I say village, it's a town. It's called Jose Maria Morelos. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's
No.
tiny. There's like no paved roads, and it was wonderful. I loved it there. I absolutely loved it. And so during that 2 years, you know, I was partnered up with like a companion at all times. We couldn't be outside of eye and earshot of each other at all ever.
Oh.
And so there is a safety thing, like to make sure we're both safe or whatever. But if you were paired up with someone you couldn't stand, and what's funny is I say that laughing because I had a few that I couldn't stand, but now knowing what I know, I'll bet you I was the one that they couldn't stand, right? I'll bet you that was totally flipped. And
Yeah.
so so anyway, yeah, it was wonderful. It was actually a lot of fun. You know, we went around and we helped people. Like seriously, it was one of those things where we would be walking on the street, and if somebody was trimming, you know, some kind of plants or something, we would just go up to them and start helping them and just chatting like, hey, how's your day? Do you mind if we help? And like that was it, you know, just to serve people. And that was something I never done before that. You know, I've never I never wanted to serve people, like,
Yeah.
you know, but I loved it. I was like, wow, this really makes you feel good, you know. And then somehow even after the 2 year experience, somehow that left me, you know. It's even after that, it was like, eventually I got back into the old habits and the old routines of, you know, arrogance and stuff. And you know, and it was bad again. But
Yeah, you know, that's something I want to hit because earlier you mentioned you went to a seminar about development and it really opened you up, made you realize, and it made you become what in my opinion, would be what we call self-aware, right? Self-aware, and currently you seem very self-aware, and self-awareness is something that entrepreneurs we need as a business owner. So a lot of times we're talking to ourselves, we're talking in a mirror. How do you recommend people find their self-awareness, and how do you know when you found it?
oh man, okay, how do you find it? There's got to be a lot of, I want to say meditation, but like meditation sometimes has like a weird connotation to it. It's really self-reflection. You know, just think about like, I do this in the morning where I'll think about the day before and I'll say, okay, when did I feel at my best? And when did I feel at my worst? And what was it? What, you know, what was the situation? And if you find yourself blaming other people or other situations outside of your control, okay? If you find yourself doing that, you really need to look inward,
Mm.
okay? Because that's something that a lot of us fall into is, well, and I still do this, right? So I'll think about yesterday and I'll be like, oh my gosh, this was like a low point. Why was it a low point? Oh, because Facebook freaking disapproved my ad. right? And I start blaming other things. And I'm like, but in reality, Facebook can't choose the way I feel, right? They do something and I choose to feel badly because of that, or I blame that anyway. And so it's really looking inward and identifying those moments, because then the next time that happens, you can recognize it. And it takes time. It takes a lot of time and repetition. But then when you start recognizing, like, something happened, I've got kids, right? So the 5-year-old is screaming again because he lost the game, right? Or something like that. Instead of getting frustrated and being like, how many times do I have to explain it's okay to lose? Okay.
Yeah.
I recognize the feeling and I say, okay, he's reacting this way. He needs to be taught, whether that's, sit him down and lecture him. We've tried.
Yeah.
or if it's like a punishment, like a timeout, or if it's like you're grounded from the game for a week, or like, what is it that we can do to teach him this lesson and be calm doing it, right? And that's all it is. It helps you to be aware if you just think about it from the day before, or you could do it at night and think about it that same day. It's just, that's not part of my nighttime routine. So for me, it's in the morning, and I like to do that for sure. Another thing I highly recommend go to events, for sure. And especially you need to go to at least one personal development event. Okay. It's something else. You're just in a room full of people. You start sharing things that you've never shared before. And that might sound really awkward, but it's really not, because everyone's doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't feel like you're being singled out or anything like that. Because then what you can do, and I do this still, I look at my notes, right? I have a notebook I took with me, and I'll look at those notes and the thoughts that I had written down to, like, remind myself, so I don't fall back into that old way of being. And the reason I would say that this is so important is because it allows you to focus on your business. Okay. If you have these personal hangups, whatever they might be, feel certain feelings or whatever it is, they are definitely going to distract your focus from your business. And when you have that taken care of, where you no longer have to worry about the relationship, you no longer have to worry about, what's today going to bring, you don't have to think about that stuff because you don't care. You know how you're going to be that day. Therefore, you can focus on your business and what needs to be done to get the result you need.
Yeah. So sounds like a lot of time to yourself, a lot of self-thinking, a lot of self-reflection. And we seem to have forgotten about that sometimes, right? We're on the go. And it's good to, like you said, it's good to find that and hit it. So, Zach, you mentioned you've been doing your business for 2 years. Let's talk a little bit about what kind of resources have helped you grow your business to where you're at now, and what resources can you recommend our listeners?
Okay. Research-wise, the best research is failing. Okay. So when you fail, that's when you learn. So, the old saying, like, fail fast, like, for real, just go. So the way this has worked out in the last just 2 years, I can't believe it's been only 2. Has it been 2 years? Maybe 3. Let's see. It's 2020. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. I'm approaching year 3.
Nice.
Year 3. So here's how it went. So I started out in affiliate marketing, like a lot of marketers do, right? Because affiliate marketing looks so attractive, right? It's like, great. We put an ad out there. They go to a landing page. We build a list, and automated income, baby, right? Does it work that way? Not usually. Okay. So I started out in affiliate marketing. My first ad failed. My second ad actually started getting some results. It still wasn't profitable. And so I started tweaking stuff on the back end. I ignored the ad, tweaked stuff on the back end. And then finally I started getting, like, upsells. And those upsells made the campaign profitable. And so eventually I ended up getting like a 700% return on my ad spend with my first affiliate offer that I tried. And I'll tell you right now, I want to say it was complete luck. Okay, because knowing what I know, I didn't know anything. I did not know what I was doing. I seriously just put out an ad. It was a pretty emotional ad. Okay. So I heard emotion was the way to go. So I put out an emotional ad and it converted really well, but it wasn't, I seriously had no idea. I didn't find out until like a year later. Oh, that's why the ad is working. Like there's a structure to it. So anyway, so I had this little lucky streak, and because of that, other people in the same affiliate program reached out to me to get some help, right? They're like, dude, how are you doing this? What are you doing? And I just kind of was like, I don't know. I just made an ad and it's emotional. Make sure your ad's emotional. That's all, that's the only advice I had. And eventually enough people were asking me that I decided to create a coaching program. And so it was me and a good friend of mine who's my current business partner for the agency that we made later. So him and I created this coaching program. Man, we tried so many things. We did like a monthly subscription model. That worked too well, actually. We were charging people $100 a month, and our time was so capped. Like it felt like I was an engineer again, just working constantly on the phone with these people. So we decided we need to double our rate. So we doubled it to $200 a month. We lost half the people. So we're doing half the work and making the same amount of money. And we're like, okay, this is good. Right. But, eventually even that, it started becoming more and more apparent to us that most affiliates, they don't have like enough ad spend to really make it work. Me coming from that engineering job, I had a good chunk of ad spend that I could put for, my ads. But these other people, they have $150 a month and stuff. And I'm like, that's not going to do it. You're never going to get the results you want with that. So anyway, so we decided we want to get out of affiliate marketing a little bit. So we kind of put the whole thing on hold, and him and I decided to build an agency. The first thing we decided to do is we're like, okay, and this was beginning of 2019. Okay, so last year. And we decided the first thing we need to do is get a mentor, right? We need someone that's done this before. And so we started looking, and we found a couple of guys that we really liked. We liked what they were saying. We liked their price point. But before we pulled the trigger, we have a mutual friend that has an agency, very successful agency. In fact, we were surprised that he actually put us on his calendar. We were afraid it was going to take months to get a hold of this guy. So he puts us on his calendar, and we just wanted to say, to him, we're like, hey, can you just check these two guys out for us and just, make sure they're legit. They're not just blowing smoke, right? And he looks it all over and he goes, you know what? They look good and their price point's good. I would definitely pull the trigger. So we said, okay, great, we'll do that. And then he goes, but hold on a minute. I have an idea for you. I would like to partner with you guys and start another agency. Okay. Come to find out, we are like his fourth agency. Okay. So he does this frequently. Right.
Wow.
And so sure enough, so we partnered with him, and didn't take long. I mean, a year later, and we're looking at, we have a minimum per month to hit all of our expenses, and we're consistently over that. It's in the mid 5 figures. I'm not allowed to actually tell you, but it's in the mid 5 figures a month. Okay. So we're very in 1 year, in the first year, that's where we went from nothing at all to that. And we actually didn't even use ads. We spent like $200 on ads, and then we turned it off because this other partner of mine, he's like, guys, we don't need to run ads. He's like, I have a network of people that need our help. So it was perfect, so we had a good networker. He's kind of now it's transformed to where he's our business development guy. I'm kind of the messaging specialist, and the original partner, his name is Brian. He's kind of in charge of all the design and creative. Okay. So we all kind of have our own places, and we've already hired some people, and we're building, and it's wonderful. So maybe like 6 months ago, when things started finally coming together with that agency, I started up that coaching program again. And sure enough, there's still people there still wanting help and stuff. So I've been able to focus as well on that. So now I'm running both, and it's great. You know, I only spend, the coaching program doesn't take a lot of my time. You know, most of my time is definitely focused on the agency, and rightly so, because that's my main cash flow.
First.
uh, but the coaching program is wonderful. I meet with them once a week or twice a week sometimes, and you know, we just hammer out some things and get them on their way with what they want to do. And I have people in there that are in health and wellness. I have affiliates. I have mindset coaches, you know, stuff like that. So all sorts of people, and it's really fun to be able to help them.
Wow, man, that's interesting. You took something that you already knew and you turned it into a profit. And a lot of times we know already, we just kind of keep it to ourselves, right? The secret, we know how to do it. But you said, hey, I got it. I'll show you. Just pay me. And that's great. That's great. That's very smart of you. So let me ask you, somebody like you that's educated and looking and always learning, what's something that has your curiosity right now? What's something that you're looking at and thinking like, I wonder how this is going to play out in the future?
Yeah, there's a few things. I would say there's a new concept out there about Facebook groups. You know, Facebook is emphasizing groups, and typically if you're advertising on a platform, it's a good idea to know what their objective is, because if you can align with them in that, they won't bother you. So I've been looking into Facebook groups and the most efficient ways to create an audience there that you can then promote. Now there's a lot of iffy situations with that with Facebook. Okay, like if you're only promoting in a group, for example, they will shut down your group. Okay, because they want you, if you want to advertise, they want you to pay. Okay, so there's limits to this group thing, but that's one thing I'm looking at. We're also looking at LinkedIn pretty heavily. I've used LinkedIn for organic traffic in the past, and I had some mild results. That's like, if I was ever short on cash, which happens in business, right? What I'll do is I'll go into LinkedIn and offer like some kind of freelance service to a bunch of people, and organically, right? And usually I'll get one or two, and it's enough to tie me over. Yeah. So anyway, so LinkedIn, but now we're looking at the paid options. And the thing that makes LinkedIn particularly enticing is it's got like, you can look up job titles. So because of the people's job titles, like it seems like you can just really hammer in the exact audience you want. But I will tell you this, it's at least double the price of Facebook in terms of cost per 1,000 impressions, right? So it's more expensive. So we're going to be dabbling in that here coming up this week, actually. So
Yeah, LinkedIn is a great platform. Organically, it's great, but when you start investing in paid ads, I understand it's more expensive, but it makes more sense. The fact being that the audience that you have on there are the decision makers,
yeah,
and
and
again, you can target them by jobs.
And just real quick, so I know I know this podcast is the struggles of entrepreneurship. So I want to tell you, like, the last 2 years have not been all rainbows and roses and, you know, hunky dory. Like, these times that I was short on cash, like, it was bad. You know, as an engineer, I was also foolish with money, right? I had a terrible relationship with money. I'm still working on that. Okay, just because of my upbringing. So what I ended up doing is I ended up living way outside my means. Okay, so my bills every single month are between $5,500 and $6,000 a month. Okay, because I bought the car, I bought the house, you know, and so now I'm, and then I quit my six-figure job. Okay, which, trust me, my wife was so thrilled about. Right, I'm trying to help the relationship. That didn't exactly help. I mean, it did, but it didn't, you know. Anyway, so I left the job, and that was just with my affiliate thing that I was doing. And eventually it, you know, I noticed that if I spent this much in ads, I would get this much money back. But if that much money back, $100, all of a sudden I would not have as much to spend on ads. Did I cut out there, or am I still good?
No, you're good.
Okay. So all of a sudden I would have less to spend on ads. And so it was like a downward spiral of less and less and less, because my bills took all the money so quickly. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to figure something out. And so that's, this coaching thing happened. So that helped a little bit, but even at $100 a month or even the $200 a month, that wasn't enough to cover everything. Not even close. So I was like, I was really hurting, actually. In fact, November of 2018, at that point in time, I was 3 months behind on all my bills. Which I don't know if you know anything about mortgages, but 3 months is usually like the point when they're like, you're going to foreclose. So I was 3 months behind, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what I'm going to do. And that morning I heard a podcast from Frank Kern, and he's like, hey guys, Black Friday is coming up. Make a Black Friday offer. So I did. I put together a quick Black Friday offer. I made it for those 3 days only, like Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And sure enough, I made a lot of money from that. The problem is, so it was like 30 grand in that weekend. The problem is this: I was 3 months behind on $6,000 worth of bills, and I had to split that with my business partner, right? So I made 15K. Great. I still have 18,000 in bills that I'm behind on. Right. So I still had to prioritize and say, okay, what bills are still not going to be paid. Right. And so I still didn't have anything for the next month, like it was hard. It was so hard. In January of 2019, I decided to get a job. Okay. So I did. I went back, I got a job. I found a good one working from home. Okay. So I still was able to, I did some entrepreneurship stuff while I was working. Right. But I had to, and my wife did too. Same, actually, we worked for the same company, and we both worked from home and stuff. We could still handle the kids. We're juggling all the stuff just to keep floating through. During that time, let me tell you the worst part. Okay, this is the bottom part of my last 3 years of business. Okay, this is when, so I live in the country in Oklahoma, and so we have a septic tank. Okay, so some of you might know where I'm going with this. So guess what? Septic tanks have these pipes basically that go from the tank out to somewhere. It doesn't matter where, because what happens is all the waste goes out those pipes and gets absorbed by the ground, is the idea. Okay, so at least the liquid gets absorbed by that way all you have left is solids. Okay, the problem is this: in Oklahoma, we have like clay dirt, right? So the clay dirt like packed around the pipes, and this happens every year apparently, okay? So it packs around the pipes, which makes it so the liquid can't get out. So then the septic tank fills up in like a week, at least if you have a big family, right? Because all the, everything that you do. So all of a sudden we have a full septic tank, we get it drained, right? That's $350. And then the next week it's full again. And we're like, what the heck is going on? And so we called around. Those pipes needed to be replaced. Okay. They're called ladder lines. Okay. So I called around, it's $15,000 typically to replace ladder lines.
Wow.
And I'm barely floating by with my wife and I both working and trying to run some business. Right. And I'm like, there's no way. No one was willing to do a payment option, and not a single person. And we couldn't use our toilets. So we ended up getting some 5-gallon buckets. We got some swimming noodles, and we put swimming noodles around the rim of the buckets, and we had some cat litter. And that's how we were using the bathroom for about a week and a half. A week and a half of just crapping in buckets. And then I would have to take that, go out to the yard and bury it far away from the house. Okay, with like, it was just, oh my gosh, the most humiliating thing to be able to bury our own feces in the backyard. It's just unbelievable. And I just remember like carrying the bucket and the shovel out to the backyard, and I was just thinking like, what the heck am I doing? My wife and I are both working. Like at that moment, I wanted my engineering job back. Right? I was like, I'm done. I can't do this. And it was a huge moment of self-doubt. It was just so difficult. Luckily, like that night, I want to say it was like that night, we started contacting plumbers to see if they knew anybody that would do a payment option. Like maybe if we go through someone, they would be willing to work with us. So we started contacting plumbers, and it was like 10 o'clock at night. And we reached out to this one plumber's Facebook page. And we noticed he lived like down the road from us. He's pretty close. And so we reached out, and he responded. And he's like, "Hey, do you mind if I call you?" And we're like, "No, not at all." Right. So he calls us and he's like, "Look, I can actually do it for you." He goes, but there's some problems with it. The problem is technically I'm not certified. So we got to keep it on the DL. Right. And he's like, "So I'd be willing to work with you. In fact, I could do that for you for $2,500. And you can set the payment plan. Right. So you could pay $50 a month. You could pay $1,000 a month. I don't care." And we're like, "Oh my gosh, this guy is a lifesaver." So we had him come out. He measured everything. He came out with all the machinery needed, and he replaced it all. And I'll tell you what, I paid him very fast. It took me like 3 or 4 months because I was so appreciative. I made it happen. I was like, I can't believe, guys, the feeling of being able to use your toilets again. Like, I don't even know. I've never felt so relieved. Like, I know that's weird, but for real, like it was the most humiliating, humbling experience ever. Yeah, it was awful. But that guy, man, I offered him everything. I'm like, "Dude, I'll do your marketing for you. Like whatever you need, like I'm here to help, So anyway, so that was, like I said, it has not been all rainbows and sunshine. Even after that, we were still, as an agency, we were kind of going month to month, barely hitting costs or getting enough, until finally, like, I want to say maybe October or so of 2019. That's when traction picked up, and we saw a snowball effect where all of a sudden, it was not an even steady flow of clients, right? October, all of a sudden it's like, boom, big jump, boom, another big jump, and so on. And we had to hire people, and now we're in a really good place, so it's been a rough ride for sure.
Wow, that's an amazing story, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with us, Zach.
No problem.
And so you guys heard it here first. If you guys think you have it tough, remember, bathrooms are great. Take advantage of them. So, like, where can we find you? Where can our followers, the listeners, go out and follow you and find out more about you?
Yeah. I actually have a free course. So if you just go to theguidemarketing.com, with that, you get like a free Facebook group, of course, and I do weekly trainings in there. So, especially with messaging, that's my key superpower. So messaging to me is everything. If you don't have the right message, it's not going to work, period. So if you want to learn more about that, definitely theguidemarketing.com. That's all you have to do. It's a free course. You get a free group. You get some bonuses too. Like I have templates and stuff that you get. So I like to just give that all out for free, because that doesn't cost me any time. And of course there's coaching involved later if you want, but all that stuff is there for you as a resource if you want to learn it.
All right. Awesome, guys. I'm going to make sure to include a link on that in the description of this podcast and of this video. So make sure you guys click below. Mr. Zack, thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for giving us your honest opinion of how it really is.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Thank you so much. What's awesome. That?
I said, you got any final words for the listeners?
I guess I would say just don't give up. It's like there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You just got to get there, and oftentimes it's a time frame more than anything else. And I think Tim Ferriss says, "He who stays in the game long enough, success is inevitable." And I truly believe that. So just keep going. Just keep going.
All right, guys. You heard it here. Thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on the next one.